I love that I have a shadow
Oh,
behind me.
yeah. Hello, everyone. We're live. It is Wednesday where we shred. It's funny how many people are like, what does that mean?
I know, I asked the same question.
It's just hanging out, shredding. I don't know.
I
But
love it.
welcome, everyone. We are here live with my guest, Bianca Bruce, which, I had to ask your last name. Everyone asked mine too, how to pronounce it. But
Yes.
hello, Bianca. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm really glad we're doing this. I had the same question. What does it mean to shred? Because English is my second language. And I think the last time I heard that term was when my kids were getting into skateboarding and
Yes.
longboarding, and they were shredding. And so I'm wearing heels and a blazer, and I'm not about to get on a skateboard, but I love that we're chatting.
Yes. Hello, Suha. Welcome. Hello, Christina. I love that we have hello, Dal. She's in the background. I love that we have I've kind of created I have regulars that come in and are
Yes,
part of the audience, and I love that. So it's like
you
a
have
way.
a following.
Yes, and it's a great way for me to kind of catch up with them as well because they're always really engaged in the conversation and in the comments. So I love it. But Bianca, so I wanted to ask you because you just said that English was your second language. So where are you
Mhm.
from? Because you and I have never actually really met before this. This is our first real interaction.
Yeah, this is our first conversation. We've never
Yes.
met. I look forward to meeting you. I have to tell you, my team and I, we follow you on social. Obviously, you are the queen of LinkedIn, and you are known internally by your great hair. So, I just want you to know that that is your
Really? That's so
reputation
funny.
and your personal brand precedes you.
Oh,
But I was born and raised in Romania, so I like to tell people that the part of Romania I was born and raised in is Transylvania, which is always really exciting to talk about. And then we immigrated to Germany after the wall came down. So I went to school, high
hmm.
school, and part of college in Germany, and then I moved here on a solo whim, um, thinking that I've got it all figured out and I know how to adult. And I was wrong. I'm still figuring out how to adult. But when I was I was 19, and so that was a minute and a half ago. It's been a while, but I moved here because I had been here as an exchange student when I was in high school, and I truly fell in love with America.
Wow. So, kind of fun fact, and not many people would know this, but my dad's side of the family is Russian Romanian. So,
Wow.
and I do have family from Transylvania. I think my grandmother, that's where it goes back to Romania, Transylvania. My
Yeah.
grandfather, oddly enough, I just found out he was an actual Ukrainian refugee.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, so I'm still kind of learning on my dad's side because my mom's side is she's Mexican and they still all are alive and live in Mexico. Unfortunately, my dad's side of the family, he doesn't have any family, so I don't really know much. So you and I will have to have an offline conversation about this because you
We
never know. We
absolutely
might be
need to.
somehow related.
Yes, we might be distant cousins from the homeland, as I like to call it.
I
Uh,
know.
so that is so fun. Oh, isn't it great to kind of think back and find out and figure out what the stories of your ancestors are? I think it's so telling
Yes.
to storytelling in general. We want to know where we come from. We want to know that we belong to a bigger story, to a bigger conversation than what we are able to have with just ourselves. And so I would love to chat with you about where your family's from and what that might mean for you.
Yeah, we're trying to do a family tree. But I feel like
Yes.
that this conversation, what you just said, lends to our topic of personal branding. And
Mhm.
I feel that it lends to it in the sense that, when we talk about having a personal brand and putting yourself out there, it's essentially what we're doing right now. We're putting ourselves out there. We're talking about things that we don't necessarily, not many people know about us. And guess what? That's how they're going to connect with us emotionally. That's how by us storytelling. And that's why I wore this shirt where it's what's
Yeah.
story, because it's essentially, it's your story. That's what, what your brand is. So how did you even get into this space? Because a lot of people got into this space because they had their own brand just naturally, and then it just kind of grab it, and that's what happened with me, is that I never studied marketing. I was, in mortgage, and then I just naturally kind of put myself out there. So then I started being able to talk about my experience of developing a brand, if you will. So for you, it sounds like you've actually studied, I would say, have the more the credibility and the education behind it.
So that is so fun that you're saying it. I love how you asked that question. So first of all, I want to say to you, personal brand is all about the story you want to tell. It's an expression of who you are. And personal isn't just, it's not the same as private, right? Personal is your person. It's who you are and how you engage the world. And so I always like to think about it of all the components that make up you, and the story that you want to tell. So a personal brand precedes you. It goes ahead of you. And you can actually control the message. And control is not necessarily the same as controlling the outcome or having control over it, as much as being empowered by your value proposition. So I always start with that. And I find it so interesting that we also, in personal branding, allow other people to make assumptions about us, to tell the story they think we're telling. And you just did that, which is wonderful. You just told the story you're thinking that I'm telling, which is that I studied branding, and that I'm a fully fledged designer, and I know exactly about personal brand, and this is my background, which is wonderful, right? That there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not true. It's not true. There's nothing wrong with that story. It just doesn't happen to be true.
Right.
But it's telling of how well I'm telling my story as a brander, professionally speaking, because I am an expert in my field, and I do know how to create a personal and professional brand. And so naturally, my audience would think, this is her background, this is what she's done, and she's a pro at this, because she kind of is. So that is the truth. But my background is actually in communication. And so communication is what branding is about. It's how you create the story around the value that you're bringing to your audience. And it starts with, when I just tagged you earlier on the post on LinkedIn, you have an emoji as part of your name that cannot be removed. That's sort of a rock on emoji, right? This, I already know based on that you are a lot of fun. Fun is a high value of yours. You like to get into it and have casual conversations that are meaningful. And so that's you're telling me about your brand, and you're telling me about your story by way of communicating with me and your audience through words and symbols and logos and colors, and how often you show up and how you show up. Those are all elements that communicate your personal brand. Everyone has a personal brand, whether you're working on it or not. And that should go to tell you enough about, if you don't work on it, you may not be having the brand you would like to think you have.
Right. No, I love how you explained all of that. And it's true that everybody has a personal brand, but it's funny because there are so many people that think that it's like a job to create your personal brand, right? So then it's like daunting. They're like, how do I present myself on social media? What do I do? So this is something that I've been thinking about in the last couple of days. I've started to really empathize more with people that are really struggling to put themselves out there and have a brand, because there's some of us that we, how they talk about the it factor, if you will. And, my mom kind of reminds me all the time. She's like, Raquel, it's really easy for you to put yourself out there. Like, you're just a natural at it. Like, you're easy. You can get in front of the camera. You can make fun of yourself. Like, it's easy. It's you have a gift with that. So she's like, not everybody has that. And so I have to think about that. Like, how do you get people to understand how important it is without them, basically thinking like, I can't do it, it's not me? Because if you think about it,
Right.
I'm a creative person, I'm an artist. If someone was saying to me, everybody's doing math equations, like that's the
Right.
future of our world, is everyone's learning math, and someone said I
Mhm.
had to learn math and these equations, I would tell you right now, I cannot do that. Like, I can't figure that out.
Right.
So I'm just trying
I
to, like,
I like that you are giving me anxiety live,
yeah.
because be- because if you're telling me that I have to learn math to continue in life, I would just have to, like, I don't know, uh, go to the Bermuda Triangle and disappear, just be done because I couldn't do it. But here you're tapping into something really interesting, and this is something that I get asked often. Um, and that is branding something that only extroverts can do because you are out there, right? And you put yourself out there, and clearly that is a domain for extroverts. And I would say that is absolutely not true. There are things like math and branding and language and, you know, cooking dinner for your family and, closing loans in the lending industry that some people know how to do, and they have an aptitude for it. But even if you have an aptitude for something, you still have to practice it. And I think that one of the things about personal brand creation that I want to just relate to everyone who's listening is it's not as difficult as it sounds, right? Because you don't have to do everything.
Right.
You can choose to step into it and choose what it is you want to start with. So always start with something that is meaningful to you. And I always think about values. I think about why you do what you do. And for some of us, we know that very clearly and we know that very intuitively. And for some of us, we have to sit down and kind of discover that and be curious about who we are personally and professionally and how we want to be perceived personally and professionally. And the reason why I say you have a brand whether you know it or not is because you are already in relationship with people, in your industry, in your company, with your team, in your community. People know you for a certain something. Figure out what
Mhm.
that is. Is it your kindness? Is it your proactivity? Is it the way you are always courageous in stepping up to present a new idea? Is it innovation? What may it be for you? There's no wrong value. There's no wrong way of personally branding yourself if you're coming from a place of adding value and contributing and being curious and thinking of the impact that you have as a person. And your personal brand isn't just about your personal life. In fact, it's not at all about your personal life. Your personal life weaves into your whole life, who you are personally and professionally, and how you show up in the world. So it's not so much about figuring everything out and becoming a math or branding genius. It's about picking a couple of things, working on those, and 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 continuing to engage what it is you want to communicate with power and with integrity for a certain purpose.
Right. No, you're so right. And then when you said about personal, I think once again, people hear the word personal and they automatically think I have to share everything about my private life or about, my life in general. And
Please
that's not,
don't.
yeah, if anything, as much as I put myself out there, I have boundaries. Like, I don't talk
Yes,
about dating life. I don't talk about that part of my personal life. I've got stuff.
yes.
I have a lot of family kind of drama that's going on. I don't talk about that, out of respect for people, and also like that I should have boundaries. But so you can still have that. And there are people out there that have a huge personal brand that rarely talk about themselves in their personal life, right?
Yes. So personal brand is not about, this is not your journal. This is not your diary. This isn't, unless unless that's what you want to create your personal brand about, which is a
I mean,
completely different conversation, right? I'm not, yeah, there's lots of really powerful personal brands out there that is what their brand is, and that's a very different conversation. But for most of us, and for your audience, and for particularly, I mean, this is streaming on LinkedIn. For a LinkedIn audience, that platform
on
specifically,
Facebook and on Twitch and on YouTube, just really quickly, because for whatever reason,
of course,
the video is not working on LinkedIn right now.
okay.
So Suha, I love her. She's literally watching it on Facebook, but she's commenting on LinkedIn.
Yes, that's awesome. I love it. So, okay, so we are on Facebook and we're on YouTube. So LinkedIn specifically is not a space where you would necessarily lead with your personal brand, and that is not the meaning of a personal brand. You know, in the lending industry specifically, there are I often work with people who want to tell me about their company brand. And that is a very important element of branding, to brand your company. But more and more, we are looking to personify even companies. And so the leadership each leader has a personal brand within that company. And personal branding isn't reserved for leaders. It's for everyone and anyone who wants to elevate their own career and their own voice and their own story and contribute to the conversation, because they know, and they've spent a little bit of time thinking about, again, what their value proposition is and how their voice can make an impact. And that's really all there is to it. I mean, if we were to distill it all the way down, everyone and anyone can do that, whether you're doing it by video, which is, you know, a little bit more nerve-wracking if you're not used to that platform or that medium. But you can also do this in written word. You can do it through posts. You can do it through sharing photos that you take and you think are relevant to what it is, the conversation that you are having. So personal branding is something you do by showing up with, again, your value proposition, understanding the contribution that you're making and the impact that you want to have.
Yeah. And when you say value proposition, I think that's another thing that people overthink and they tend to stress out about. You know, if their profession is a lender, they're thinking my value proposition has to be, you know, mortgages and talking about home loans and talking about what I do. And that's not the case. For instance, I'm in the mortgage industry. I'm a professional, but you know what my value proposition is at the end of the day?
What is it?
Other people laugh and feeling good about themselves and smiling. Like, I realize that is what I add value. And so, for instance, when I do a post, I tend to lead with something funny or a funny line, because I just want people to just kind of, you know, just break down those walls and just, you know, like, let's just laugh. Right. And I feel that that's so important. And not a lot of people do that. So if I can do that for somebody, and if it has to be at my own expense and I make fun of myself, I'm okay with that. But and so your value proposition can be entertainment. And I mean, there's plenty of people that's what they do on social media, is they're just literally entertaining people, and there's value in that.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I don't remember exactly how you said it, but you said, you know, some people's value proposition may be to be really great at closing loans. That's actually not a value proposition. That's maybe a goal, right? That's maybe a value proposition. A value is exactly how you define it for yourself. It's literally more like words, right? So having fun, bringing joy, adding humor, levity, those are values. You know, this company, my company, we operate on 3 values: educate, empower, equip. And so those are the things we do. If we can educate, empower, equip, we will do that. That doesn't mean we don't like to have fun. We do, but fun isn't in our core value. When we post something, I don't look at, was it fun? But I look at, was it educating? Was it empowering? Was it equipping? So there's no right or wrong way for anyone to do it, as long as it's in line with who you are and what you want to do. So fun is an excellent value. And to your point, you can add so much value by way of sticking and staying true to what it is you said you were going to do, which is what we're looking for. We're looking for that authentic piece. You know, if I stole your voice and started talking like you, everyone who follows me would think I've, lost my mind, because it's not in line with who I am, right? It's just not in line with my brand. And so it's more about authenticity. It's about figuring out and being good with who you are personally and professionally, and then showing up that way. That doesn't mean, that doesn't mean you don't do anything else. For example, if your value proposition is educate, empower, equip, you can also have fun. No one's prohibiting you from doing that.
Yeah, well, I love, because Suha just commented, and thank you, Suha. I appreciate that. She said, for your personal brand to resonate, it has to align with your purpose. Love your personal brand, Raquel. Thank you, Suha. But I wanted to comment about Suha's, because I see her as someone that really tries to inspire and motivate. So when she puts her content out there, like I know this month for Women's History Month, she's been quoting other women, and what it means to them, right? So I love that it aligns with her purpose and who she is, because I know her personally, like we're friends. And so what she puts out there, it totally aligns with who she is. And so I love that, because that's essentially, everybody has their different value proposition, and it's recognizing it and then going forward with that. But how do you recognize it? Because there's a lot of people that are probably sitting there going, but I don't know what mine is. So what would you say to people that are trying to figure it out?
Yeah, I think ask yourself what is important to you, right? Ask yourself what has been continually important to you. Sue is talking about the purpose, right? So the reason why I start with value is because purpose is for many of us, it's much more difficult to get to purpose. Purpose is a very big word. It's very existential, and it can feel kind of overwhelming to answer that question. What is your purpose? With value, it's a little bit more. It's a little bit more flexible. You can play around with it a little bit more. And so I would ask everyone who's listening, and even those of us who feel like we know what our value proposition is, to really ask ourselves, what is important to you? And how do you know? Because your life is a story. And just like when you read a story, you find evidence of the storyline, right? You find evidence of what has been important and what has been reoccurring. And pay attention to that. There are markers along the lifeline of your life that you can use as evidence of what values are important to you. I worked with somebody recently who said that their value is all about family. And so when this person said that, it became so evident that he wasn't just talking about his family. He was talking about his team, his neighborhood, his community, his worldview. He was thinking of every person as family. Well, then the next question is, how do you want to treat your family? Which is different for everyone, right? You have different values that you bring forward with the people that you call family. So you kind of engage a value proposition and a brand like a story. You can ask questions like, what else is possible? What do I know for sure? In light of this, now what, right? So now that I know this, now what can I do next? It's very playful to engage your personal brand. And you don't have to go on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or anywhere else and announce it right away. You can sit with it for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I just sit with it for a moment. And
you're like, guess what? I figured out my brand.
I got it. Yes. See, you know what I mean? And so there's a little bit just like kind of let it go a little. But and Sua is mentioned this, and you in your dialogue with her just a few minutes ago, you said you know each other. You said that you know her brand, it looks familiar. You have an inner circle. You have people, all of us do. We have people who can check us. I have people who check me. And if I put something on social, first of all, social media is very forgiving. Unless you completely go bonkers, you know.
Let's
But
get an Oscar moment.
that was your Oscar moment.
Yeah.
Keep it together for a second. But for
Yeah.
the most part, it's very forgiving. It forgets that you just said that you just posted that. But your inner circle has your back. You know, it's really awesome that you know Suha's brand and she knows yours, because you guys can call each other and say, hey, I've noticed you haven't posted as often, or I've noticed that there's a different tonality to what it is you're doing. Tell me why. Tell me what's going on for you. And so that's empowering, right? Because it's not about doing this alone. It's about finding a few people who can support you, who can see you, who witness your personal brand and professional brand, and can give you feedback on that.
It's really cool that you said that, because you're right. There are times where people can tell what's going on personally or in the background by what I post or the lack of posting that I do. And I have had quite a few people over the time, especially on LinkedIn, reach out like, hey, is everything okay? I haven't seen from you. Sometimes it's just the algorithm not showing my content to them. And I'm like, what are you talking about every day? But the fact that they've reached out to me and, you know, concerned and want to make sure I'm okay. Like, there's something about that. So you're right. Like, I didn't even think about it in that way as well, that once you kind of have that persona, people, they can check you, and they can, you know, kind of realize certain things that maybe you aren't. And look, there's Jason.
I also want to speak to just real briefly to the fact that people will say, well, why do I, if I have a personal brand, why do I need to be on social media? And what if I don't have 10,000 followers? Your personal brand is not about that. It's not about, you know, gaining followers. It's about truthfully, it's about being faithful. I know this is not anyone's favorite word, but you're staying faithful to your value proposition and to your stakeholders. And your stakeholders are your audience, your clients, your team members, and you're continuing to speak to them. And I don't care if you have 10 followers or 10,000 or 10 million. If you are authentic and you show integrity and showing up, you are impacting people's lives with who you are being. And I think it's when I get the follower question, I always ask people, if somebody came to your office or to your home and it was just one person, and they came over and you were having a chat, would you go, you know what, I'm tired of talking to you, actually, because it's just you. And I don't want to just talk to one person. I want to talk to 10,000 people. That's rude, right? Because suddenly it's about you. It's not about your value proposition. It's not about making an impact. It's just about you having followers. So knock it off. Don't think that way. Think about who you are and align yourself to your value, and trust that when you are giving authentically, it will make a difference.
No, it's so true. And I talk about that all the time too, that if you have a post and there's all these, you know, comments and engagement and all these views, but it's all just crap, right? Just robots, just people that don't even know who you are. But you do a post and it literally like has a few likes, few comments, but you get a comment from someone that you actually like aspire, you know, to be, or someone that you emulate or mentor something, and they comment. I sure as hell would be more excited about that one comment from that person.
Nailed it.
Had all these like thousands of comments that were like, hey, hi, what great post. Like, so I try to remind people, like, really at the end of the day, what matters. And if the people want all the views and the comments and the engagement, then you know what, they're going to align with that type of crowd, and they're going to align with that audience. And that's okay. Like, if that's what they want. But I know personally, that's not what I want. Like, I want to connect. I really want to connect with people. Like, for me, community, for me, social media and having a brand is more about community. It's allowing me to align and to attract like-minded people and to attract badasses in my world. And that's what it's doing, right? So like, that's how I look at it. I don't look at it as like, oh, how many people are, you know, in my network and how many followers. It's like, who am I actually like connecting with?
But it is tempting. You know,
it's
tempting to fall into that. It's totally tempting. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes.
I know. And
Did
that's,
you have
go ahead.
I remember that you said that fun is one of your highest values.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to check in. Are you having fun? Because I know I'm having fun.
Oh no, I've come to realize that I look so much forward to this like time
Yes.
slot in my day on my Wednesday, because once again, like I was saying, I love to connect with people, and this is allowing me to really get to talk to amazing women especially in this industry. And for me, like I walk away with so much fun and also feeling so fulfilled. And there's
Right.
something about that is, I wish everybody could experience something like that. Let's just say that. Like when you are really kind of in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing and who you're supposed to be talking to, there's something so empowering. It's almost like euphoric in a way. And that's essentially
Yeah.
like when I have these conversations, and right now, like that's what's happening.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that, because that's exactly
Yeah.
that's how you know that your personal brand is in fact flourishing and you're doing exactly what you said you were going to do, which is follow that value proposition.
Yeah.
So which is why I asked you that question, because I think
No,
it
and
is
I'm glad
possible
you did.
for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good, because that means I guess I'm on the right path.
Yes, you are. Your personal brand is aligned with who you are. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yes,
Check.
that's right. Moving on to the other hard things.
Oh my gosh. Well, Bianca, we're already at the 30-minute mark. So, I mean, it's just crazy how this goes by so quickly. But I wanted to thank you. And if you, how can people connect with you? Because clearly you know what you're talking about. You're very knowledgeable in this subject. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that are going to want to reach out to you.
So you can follow me on social media, really anywhere, Bianca Bruce, Broos, and then biancabruce.com. And messages, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm not on Twitter very much. I think I need to change that. I never know what to say on Twitter, but that's for another
Yeah.
discussion. And just points to the fact that even branders kind of, stumble on things and kind of go,
Oh,
no, I don't know what to do with that.
yeah, that's how I feel with TikTok. But
Yes.
I just wanted to also thank you to everyone that tuned in. Paul hopped in. He's like, yeah, I know he's been working from home.
Yes.
But I appreciate that everyone that hopped on. I know that we had a little bit of technical difficulties here on LinkedIn with the video. Hopefully, maybe that'll fix itself. I don't know. Either way, I appreciate for everyone, hanging on and doing what Sue did. So,
yes, thank you.
Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Yes, thank you so much. This is really fun. Have a great week.